anyway. You don't want to go heavy on these games. Tixie all by his lonesome here. No one else to help him. He's got a DBS versus the three-man squad here of Quest.
Easy, straight around the corner. Easy two-pump, double barrel action. Straight into the face of Kitsune as well. Causes him to go bounding around like a very aggressive bunny rabbit. And he's put the foot down, Blank. At least hits onto a one. The sprint out as well. Basically just offering themselves up as sacrifice there. Those are some freebies for Gladiators. You get the response in as well for the situation. Get everyone back on their feet. You're going to be happy with that.
Yeah, you're going to be really, really pleased with the fact that Tixie's able to hold his own on this compound. It is typically where Tixie does play as well, over towards this eastern side, able for the rest of the team to get over towards him as well. And I think that is nice. That's a nice regroup coming through from Gladiators. A lot of times they've been fairly slow on that approach. If one player is all on his lonesome, backup doesn't come half as quick enough a lot of times. So for Tixie, he is thanking his teammates, clapping them on the back there. That is a very, very pleasing result for Gladiators. Not so much for Quest, currently on 13 points. It's not really looking too good for this team, even after the absolute mad plays we saw from Al Haji yesterday. I don't know how much further Quest is going to be able to get into this tournament, but I think next year is going to be a really good year for Al Haji, no matter what team he's on.
I think they've done well, at least in kind of winning the hearts of the fans a little bit as well, with the time we've seen from them on camera, the way they've come across in their interviews, and the resilience we saw, at least in regulation, back in Group Green, right? You know, for them to actually fight through and even still be in the tournament in a position where we can still be talking about them right now, Blank, at least for me, was impressive. It just felt like there was a little bit of room for them to get another step forward. It's a shame how some of the games have gone for Quest, especially yesterday. It was rough. It was raw. Misery back on screens here, though. Evos instantly aggressing, looking to try and build themselves a few points on this one. Misery got the early knock off with the UMP. Redface and Co now moving in to clear out the upper compound as well, and flushing their way through anyone that dares to peek into them.
Yeah, it's a nice little fight there from Procedure Evos versus N-Hyper, leaving them down to one player now. And I think for Procedure Evos, this is very well set up. Yesterday didn't look too great for Procedure Evos. I mean, they were doing extremely well over in our group stage, but kind of fell off just a little bit there towards our first day of play for Group Green. 21 points, though. It's not terrible. It's not ideal either, but it's good enough. Procedure Evos, it is just Misery now coming up against some of the players here from NASA. Xenox will open things up.
What more can he get done? Bullets down range early on. It's good high ground, good position to be in. They've got a great understanding of where exactly they could be potentially fought from. Bit of a move on the go here as well, as we see the rotation from Evos off the back of their cleanup. Now finding a bit of a safer compound to play in, but they've been startled, detected from across the road. We're lying in wait. It's Melise of all squads. Hit and miss yesterday, Blank. Honestly, to be fair with you, mate, I feel like we saw a truer test of them, at least in Group Green. You know, from what we saw yesterday, it felt like they were struggling a little bit. Even CEO later, there were times where it felt like this guy was a bit of a one-man army. I don't feel like he was as quick to the mark yesterday. I'm hoping, obviously, with a day of rest, you've come back in a little bit more fresh-faced today. Would like to see some improvements from them today.
Yeah, I mean, for the Turkish squad, it's just a little bit difficult for them at the moment. I mean, they've been making a lot of right moves. And I think for an edge team that likes to kind of read into opponents' movements around the map and cut the legs out from underneath them, they did a good job of it in terms of theory, right? In theory, where they were playing, it was all fantastic. Then they were going down to these engagements. They weren't always able to win it out very cleanly with a four-man squad going onwards and just clearing from there. And they ended up just losing games very early on. And this kind of the risk with playing edge a lot of times whilst you're holding out and guarding those edge sides is that if you get into an engagement there, you lose it, right? There's not much chance of getting very much further into the game. For other teams that like to leapfrog from edge and then send towards a kind of a middling position between the center of the circle and the outer side of it, you have much more chance to get further into the game and maybe pick yourself some pretty consistent placement points off the back of it. And we had a really good conversation as well well yesterday, or even this morning, actually, bloody hell, mixing up my time zones. It's all going so quickly right now, where we were talking about, look, some of these teams yesterday just came out absolutely swinging, and I think in this format you have to, whereas other teams sort of got in their own heads a bit.
Yeah, that was one of the big focal points we were kind of sort of umming and ahhing over, about how you could see the difference of, let's say, a team like Influence Rage, who came out just playing their style, just absolutely giving it, right? Any opportunity they had to just swing on a fight, play confidently, going into an engagement, basically thinking, we've already won this. They're just thinking about the points being in their pocket. You're going to have so much more of a better time of it than going into it giving so much respect to teams, overthinking these situations. And we've seen that change. A lot of our squads from Group Green, it feels like their play styles have kind of flip-flopped more so than anything compared to what we were seeing during that regular point. This is an interesting one, actually kind of ties into that. You can see here, Reject Tokyo at least getting a bit more confidence to fight and contest for center control. A little bit lucky there in terms of the draw of the circle, but it works out. You've got a compound, you're in a good spot, and they're going to be pleased with this, mate. They'll be chuffed with that blank, because when they had center control, when they felt comfortable early in a compound, this is where we saw some of the better games from Reject, because honestly, they're great on defense, good comms. It just felt like getting there was rough for them. They've been playing a lot of edge, and it hadn't been working out too well. I'd hope that would be a positive change. Bit of a fight potentially developing here as well. You've got the push up the hill. Focus is drawn from NASA towards the backside, but a few bullets whizzing on by. Room for a bit of a scrap here.
Yeah, I think for Enigma Galaxy as well as Nisa, this is a case where potentially Enigma Galaxy will just think about just swinging wide of this, potentially trying to get in underneath towards Painan. I think Enigma Galaxy is a team that is very well known for some of their more smart rotations. A little bit of a scout there from Ralph. He's in very much danger now of taking a knock. Luckily, the vehicle is going at a strong 90 miles per hour. Alter Ego zooming in towards where Reject is playing. Already Octa gets taken down here. They try and take control of one edge, but Reject has penned them in, locks them into one location. Now the nades can start to come through. There's a lot of damage off the back there. In the meantime, Duxan does take down Ralph. We talked about him earlier being very, very low.
Pins pulled on the nades for Alter Ego, looking to see if maybe there's a way they can defend themselves with these bad boys. Problem is they've already taken so much damage. Reject Tokyo setting themselves up. They're trying to reset in terms of the defense and readjust what positions they're playing from so they can support each other a little bit easier. There is nades in play as well. Reject Tokyo normally very good on lining up those double nades. That could be something to come back towards. For now, we'll see what's happening up on the hillside as well. There's been a bit of commotion here. Teams have been making their presence known, and that high ground control is going to be worth its weight in gold the longer this one goes on. So pressure being applied there. Rotation coming in as well. You've got Alliance on the move as they start to make their way over. Drop in the smoke so they've actually got some cover to work with. And you'd need it because Melisse are close by and they're eagle-eyed, Blank. They've got eyes like a hawk.
Yeah, for Yudu, this is probably one of the toughest rotates currently happening on around the map, where they're sort of locked in between DX as well as Melisse Esports, and DX has a fantastic control of his high ground. Something we saw a lot from them yesterday is identifying some very strong positions on the map, but also being really good at holding them down. Not necessarily always in compounds, just in certain areas of the map where they have that high ground control. They can play around a little bit of hard cover and go from there. Circle moves very hard towards that north side. Now, that is a little bit of grace given towards MB Esports. They can use that to their advantage. Yudu Alliance, they take a knock in Flax, and a quick heal goes over towards Fatar there. So very, very immediate response from Yudu Alliance, but I don't think it's going to be enough here. I think they're just caught on with the worst end of the stick out of the lobby. Probably the only team that's going to suffer in the next minute or so, I would say. Malise Esports on this side of the map. Now, Kissu does go down. Poser has a nade in hand. We'll send it over towards Nisa, but Malise Esports, again, just crumbling a lot during these days. Again, Nisa, 5 eliminations found so far. Really, really good stuff from them. I think this is interesting because it is a lot of these squads that we see a fair few times that just come into these games swinging. They tend to do well, and I would say that this is a very, very good and promising mark of the game going forward here, Jackie.
I'd agree with you, man. It feels like, actually, we're getting into a bit of a groove now, a bit of a stride for some of our teams. A lot more aggression displayed early game as well here with the culmination of the 2 groups we have in today's lobby for survival stage. Now, they were being pulled and pushed in multiple directions here. It felt like they weren't quite sure which fight they wanted to set their gaze on, but now they've been thrust into one. They have to try and survive, taking a ton of damage up against Evos. Good lay of the land from Link as well. Knows to look towards the distance. Can see just over the ridge side where his next opponent is coming from. They've got an understanding of where exactly he's playing towards, but with the bullets connecting, they're going to start to farm up these elims. Malise, meanwhile, are crashing down as well. This is UDU Alliance still trying to push over that hill. They've been doing this for quite some time, Blank, and maybe it's going to start to work out. Nice connection onto Levites. He's dropped and finished off for good, and they're still pushing in.
Yeah, Cluck's doing a really good job here. I actually like the thought process we saw from UDU Alliance. Unfortunately for them, DX followed them down on that south side, which is a really cool play from DX. You don't a lot of times see teams chasing on this situation. In the meantime, Reject desperately trying to hold on towards their central compound. They left it. They moved towards that north side, but they did face off versus FaZe. But they're currently still in a strong position. Gladiators, for them, this game is very, very important. They already started things off really well with a 4 limmer. It would be absolutely strange and weird circumstance that we see Gladiators get the majority of their points done on Sandhawk. As we know, they are horrid at this map. This is a map that they do not find a lot of success on, but already they're up to 7 eliminations. With 4 players alive, this is starting to be a really good run for them.
There's an itch in the back of my brain just reminding me of one of the Sandhawk games we saw from Gladiators quite some time ago, Blank. And I just remember it starting off in the same kind of way. When the pressure's on Gladiators, when it feels like, the story's not going to happen, the crazy comeback towards the end is never going to be there. It feels like finally that Cinderella story won't be written. Something like this happens. We've seen it before on Sandhawk. I don't know what causes them to play like this sometimes, but they've certainly had their breakfast this morning, and they're coming out with some fibrous maneuvers, looking very solid in the moves they're making. 7 elims to the name, Blank. How much longevity have they got on this one? We'll keep our eyes on it because Gladiators need a good game, and the individuals are playing to prove that.
Yeah, they desperately do. Right now, facing off versus Duxan, not an easy team to go up against. MB Esports, they lose Fistboy on a knock. That's to DX, who are doing a really good job over on this eastern side, just clearing their way through. Up to 3 eliminations now. Alter Ego also chiming in. Bit of a better rotate from them over towards this south side, able to take over that compound that Reject were holding on to. I think a lot of that comes off the back of the fact that Gladiator was able to get some really good pop shots between the windows, knock some of the players from Reject. Very much slow them down, bog them down. More nades sailing in from Gladiators, taking out the remainder now of Duxan. FaZe spots out some of the players from Gladiators, will take some pot shots towards them, over towards that western side. Chow gives his life for the rest of the team, but it's just Paragin now. With Lamborghini down, he is able to get in, but this is more of a survival game for them. Great circle here for the Gladiators. The last minute men, as usual, very much feels like back towards my university days, where the deadline's looming and then suddenly I'm in the library for 24 hours.
That's how it always goes with Gladiators, man. I sympathize with them a lot, Blank. I'm the same. Unless the deadline's there, it's not getting done. And that's the way they play. And honestly, it's working wonders for them right now. Again, with every time we're looking over to them, they're starting to build up more elims. And like you're saying, zone-wise as well, they're in a good position to make a play off this. The one awkward encounter in the dead center as well is Reject Tokyo, now basically being the Reject duo, with all of FaZe in full force around them as well. So not really what you want to be. A bit of flat sharing going on, and that's illegal. It's called subletting, Blank. FaZe are going to clap back onto DX as well, finding a way to peek through the windows. An assault onto Paragin. That's an unlucky knock.
Yeah, I think right now, even though he's able to get Lamborghini up, it was kind of for nothing. This little high ground the Gladiators currently have control of was so fortuitous that they got the circle on this side. Coming off that high ground is very difficult, so they're trying to milk it for as much as they can here, stay on this top side. But it's MB Esports coming in to try and challenge us for now. Gladiators need to be ready for this one. Kitsune luckily is in position as the DBS, only able to find one though, and that's not quite enough. The rest of the team instantly needs to improvise off the back of this. Sek and Mondo are down, so it's a decent start. The nades start pouring in, and it's a nice nade on the backside towards Fistboy. Just a Kaze left remaining, and Gladiators quickly clean them up there. Up to 12 eliminations now, Jackie. A fantastic start. Tixie's flying through the air. Matic is on the support.
Oh, mate. This is perfection put together so precisely from Gladiators right now. That was beautiful. The nade work to defend after the crash was on point, and then straight back into hungering for more elims. The peek down the hill, beautiful connection on the aim skill as well, and we get left with our final 4. A scrappy one at that as well, Blank. Alter Ego still alive. They were able to find what remained of Mad Bulls and shut them down, but they've now had the same done to them. Peek out from Sarah Biceps, and with a smooth right hook, he's wiped them off the face of the battleground. 3 squads remain.
Gladiators currently on the outside edge right now. It's FaZe with a very strong position. Alter Ego still need to work their way in as well, but they went out earlier on. Reject holding on. It's a good little game for them, but for the Gladiators, more points would be absolutely gorgeous for them here. If they could win out this game, they'll send themselves tumbling towards that top side of the lobby after just one match. So 20 points. Realistically, if they can get themselves 25 after this, they'll be very, very safe. It'll give them a buffer. They still will need to put in the work after the rest of the day, but they'll be in so much better stead. And taking that pressure off yourself this early on in the day is so, so nice.
Taking the pressure off themselves and applying it to Reject Tokyo. Problem is, though, it's not going to turn them into diamonds. It seems like they will instead just buckle under the pressure. Bit of a peek out here from FaZe, though, as Gladiators encroach further on the compound, closing in on them, using their utility to try and blow Lufa out of the equation. Nade after nade barreling through. Swing from FaZe on the stairway as well. And that connects. Sameku left black and blue, down on his last legs now, as they first onto him. Gladiators with only a duo remaining, Blank.
I think regardless of what happens there, I think Gladiators are fairly pleased with this result, right? Meku was always left behind to try and help the rest of the team get further up. Now it's Matic in a 1v3 scenario. It's going to be very difficult for him to pull this type of thing off. Goes for the pre-fire as the circle starts to push all these players in. Has an idea of where they're swinging. This rock is really nice to play around, but on Zen, he's on the prowl, and it will be found by the rest of the team. Mormon finishes off Matic. Regardless, FaZe picks himself a nice win from a very easy rotate on that north side, but for Gladiators, that could have been a lot more for them. Either way, I think it was around about 15 eliminations they finished that game with the 6 points on top of it. 21 points is just a very, very nice start for them. And you know what? Jason might have been right to bring them up at the start of the day.
It's crazy, isn't it? You know, we sit there, Jason brings out all his storylines that you think are never going to happen. And I think we hit the mark for 3 out of 3 of Jason predictions all in one game. So he's doing well today, Blank. He's doing well. Oh, look at the dance.
He's happy. He's pleased with that one. I mean, starting off the day with a win here for Mela is really, really nice for him. He's got his hot water bottle in hand as well, mate.
Oh, yes.
Taking the heat to the next level.
This is why FaZe are winning. No, they're bringing the heat in. They're warm. Exactly, Blank. That's madness. They got the moves inside and outside of the battleground, and they got the chicken dinner to boot as well. Can't turn your nose up at that one, but I think we do have to give a little bit of eyesight over towards Gladiators, looking at the stats in terms of what they got up to on that one as well. Yeah. That's a big game from them, right? They're actually fragging as well, Blank, which I think makes the world of difference in the sense of confidence. It's what we were talking about way back at the start of the game. At least now, having a high elim game, it should perk you up a little bit. You're not going to feel so somber throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean, the teamwork looked really, really good there from the Gladiators towards the end, and that's what you want to see overall. In the meantime, we're going to send you back over to the other team over on the desk.
The desk team, the best team here. Like FaZe Clan getting their victory on the board here, starting things off strong for Group Red. But to be honest, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of working parts in this one that allowed quite a few other teams to have some decent results. You know, Max, I know you didn't want to talk about him at the start of the day, but I'm going to make you talk about him now. No. It's G Gladiators.
Okay, you know what? They got himself some wins. I can give you that much, Jason. I think Kalaris was talking about that. The eliminations kind of got fed to them in weird ways, especially that fight versus Quest. Alter Ego changing their drop location to the Eastern Island, and Mad Bulls fighting Inco, which means that their rotation path here, Jason, is completely free. Even if you rotate late, you can make it through Trifecta. You can get access to Bootcamp Hill, and off the back of that, they can just start blasting at so many other teams like Duxan, Alter Ego, and get 15 eliminations on the board. They needed those points here because they were in a tough spot before here, and they already doubled their points. They had 20 points before this match, and now extra 21. That is massive for Gladiators.
That might be exactly what they need to get themselves in more of a safer position, considering this is their last day of play overall. But another team we have to dive into here is Reject in particular, because the position they had, we were watching a little bit of a disagreement between you and Max in terms of what Reject decided to do as his own tried to center up on FaZe.
So I think that they were trying to make the game-winning play, right? Like with some of their moves. They start in Trifecta, they had a 2-2, and they go to the compound, which in our region we see always as a focus point for some of these circles mid-Sandhawk. Now, they realized Alter Ego's coming in behind them. They made a ridiculous blitz through. It was risky, but they actually got a lot of points from it, 8 points in total. That's by the by. Rejects here from this point on tries to leave this compound and go north towards FaZe. I think they already took one elimination off of FaZe, so they knew that they were weakened, or in a weakened state, but it was very slow, very unsuccessful trying to breach the position of FaZe here. So I like that Rejects was trying a winning move, but it materialized. At least they got high up in this game, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that the situation they were in with Alter Ego playing the Road Trifecta compound is you want to work with Alter Ego and stand that compound for as long as possible to gatekeep other potential threats later on down the line. If you stay there with Alter Ego, you eliminate Nigma Galaxy, Deke Xavier, Duxan. You can also maybe eliminate some players of Gladiators as they get pushed down Bootcamp Hill, and off the back of that, you can transition through the rocks, maybe make over to FaZe. I think that was the better approach, but to be honest, the moment Deke Xavier died, right, Kalaris, they could play those rocks and survive super fine to the match. So it ended up working out, but I think there was maybe another option available. But that's the cool thing. There's so many ways to play it that you don't know which one might be the best at the end.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, like a symbiotic relationship in that compound for a little while. The thing I look at it is that they got third in this game, and would they have probably have got third if they'd have stayed in that compound as well? Yeah, probably. Yeah. But would they have got first? Almost absolutely not. So I think that, you know, they were trying to go for it all, and obviously it didn't pan out.
Yeah, and again, trying to make those plays that are really important for them, considering Reject coming into this one from Group Green. So they only have, well, now 5 matches left to go. They have to get as many points as possible. They have to make sure that to make the right decisions, though, as we did look at a drop as well between Mad Bulls and Inco. And Mad Bulls, a team that it really doesn't matter for them, right? They're pretty much safe into the last chance. For Inco, though, at least them trying to scrape by as many points as possible. I think they got 3 with the eliminations. They're realizing, okay, well, this is not going to work out. Let's try to salvage with something, but they have to maybe look forward now to the next 5 matches.
Yeah, you don't forget the best part of that fight here, Jason. Just Raoul come in like, sit down. just get rid of them.
That was a good bit.
That was a good bit right there. But yeah, it's a hot drop. It is normally Inco that would have to change that drop because Mad Bulls, as you touched upon, Kalaris, during that game, are already so comfortable. It is currently their fight to win currently in that position. If they win it, they clear it for the last chance. And Inco, they're just going to be maybe completely out of that position from the get-go. So yeah, Inco, cool. It's fair enough. There's only 1 of these maps per day. But you might want to try and think of avoiding those as much as possible because it can really impact your results over only 2 days worth of play. That is such a small amount of time that these hot drops can really impact your position.
Yeah, it would be even especially more huge if there was more than 1 Sandhawk per day, right? But there's very little interest in giving up your position when you've done as well as you did like yesterday as Mad Bulls.
One thing I do want to mention really quickly, because you said it while we were watching the game, and I kind of really liked the idea of it. We did see Alter Ego change the drop location, as was mentioned already on the desk here. They went up towards Cow. But then when the zone started to shift away from Corey, more centralized, and they were on the east side of Corey, you were talking about what do they do here in this position. And Klaus, I wanted you to bring that up just really quickly.
Yeah, again, they're just playing really risky PUBG Mobile. Like, going for these wide rotates, going up against Quarry, which is a very difficult place to transition away from. They have to bomb it through to try and make something happen. If they'd have come in from the north, it might have just been an easier time. But yeah, they did all right. But it's, again, very risky PUBG Mobile here.
Yeah. High risk, potentially high reward for Altigo, who desperately need every single point they possibly can in our final 5 matches. And it's time to head into our second match of the day, which is our first Erangel of the day with Jackie and Blake.
Ooh, the first of the 3 Erangels. This is good. This is always my favorite Porsche Blanc, because it feels like we start to get the more nuanced games, right, where we can kind of expect the more unexpected. But this lobby's already looking kind of wild, so we'll see what we get, Blanc. We'll see what we get. Room for some treats.
Yeah, I think that the guys on the desk touch on a really important point here, is that for some of these teams, you know, specifically what Kalaris was talking about really interested me in the sense that, you know, Reject, they go for the game-winning play at the end of the day. And I think you have to do that now. You really do have to go for these sort of things, because honestly, for Group Green, we know this is their last day of play to get in towards that survival stage, to not be in the bottom 8. And again, because you are the group that's playing the first 2 days in a row, you don't play the last day, you don't really know what marker you're aiming for, right? You don't know where that bullseye lies, because no one is on that 16th position where it's just fixed, and you can think to yourself, we only need to get this amount of points to get in. So you have to push it to the max every single game, and I think that some teams are realizing, I would say too late at this point in time in Group Green, that they have to go for these game-winning moves. That had to come through yesterday. It absolutely had to come through yesterday. I think Mad Bulls took their fate into their own hands very quickly, as did Influence Rage, who have more than secured their position over towards the last chance phase. At this point, I think they have 77 points, something ridiculous at this point in time. So I think for some of these teams, maybe it's coming through too late. You need a little bit of luck today. You need to really hit your shots. You need to be making strong rotations, and maybe, just maybe, able to bump those points up just enough. I think for Quest, that instant elimination at the start of the day there on Sandhawk versus a team that most people regard as not the greatest Sandhawk team, will really knock their confidence in a big way. We know Quest made it in by the skin of their teeth, literally 1 point in Group Green to get towards that survival stage. I don't know if that sort of playstyle is going to cut it here, where a lot of teams, we're starting to cut down past the teams that, you know, didn't get past the first group stage. They're now in the survival stage now, where we have a lot of really, really strong teams. They won't just sit down and die like Tiamba did.
No, it's not going to be anywhere near as easy or as fine of a margin. I think that's the other part as well, is the fact that that was 1 point of difference. I would imagine it's going to be a little bit more of a stark contrast here. Hello, imagine.
I would have cried.
That would have been huge, man. Full John Rambo action to start off the day, but not going to happen. They will try and instigate the fight, though, onto Melisse as best as possible, whilst they know they're a little bit fragmented over in Alliance territory. So he's going to go breezing off, and Poser will join the rest of the squad, group up, and see what they can get done. But yeah, it is a very, I don't know, it's quite a curious way to start off the day, really, in terms of some of the teams that we saw playing well. It was a bit more unexpected for me. After what we saw from Gladiators, I was kind of starting to shift into that, you know, you don't believe in the Gladiators camp. But as soon as it feels like you hit that point on the meter, that's when they bounce back. I think they do it just to, like, spite everyone. They do, man. They really want to kind of like rope you into the idea that it's not going to happen, and then, you know, they make all the fans book their tickets last minute to the finals. That's how that always goes. But we'll see if they can maintain pace, because it was a good game from them. But it's a key point that you hit on as well that I think is quite interesting, in the sense that the best they can do now is try and repeat that as much as possible today, because obviously they've left themselves with no other chances to accumulate points. So if you're leaving it up to another team to decide your fate, that's the rough part.
Losing Alva off the back as well. And I think this is something that's happened a few times now coming through from the boys on the squad. And I think that when you look at this, for Alter Ego, you just maybe drop trash around Mansion don't go for this 2-2 split between Lipovka as well as Mansion itself. It's not worth it. With the amount of teams that saw you yesterday get trounced by other squads, of course, NBE Sports is going to come down here and start to take some pot shots towards you. Mondo's coming in with the UAS, likely to clean this one up. The best Rosemary can do is send out some smokes, trying to hit a couple of shots over with the DP, but I don't know, man.
No, this is looking pretty raw. It's like uncooked beef at this point.